Weird. I have a situation that I'm having a hard time with, and would really appreciate others' insight. I have been in a pretty good marriage for 15 years. We love each other and have had a fairly happy, healthy marriage. At least I thought so. I have never even thought of straying and never even considered my wife would. A few days ago, I noticed some messages on my wife's Facebook from a guy I didn't know. It turned out to be an ex-BF, which was strange because we have been together since high school. With a little bit of on and off. And I know about all her other relationships. She had been communicating with this guy for a couple years, and it appeared she had also been texting and calling him at times. There was nothing really incriminating in the messages, but she did tell him that she was struggling with some things and our marriage was not good. A few years ago, I was in a business that failed. I got behind on taxes, mortgage payments, etc., and hid this from her. This obviously caused some problems in our marriage, but we were able to work through it and put the issues behind us and are now in a more stable financial position. However, some of her messages suggesting struggles have been within the past year, long since our issues have been resolved. When I confronted her, she admitted to being in contact with him, but denied any sort of physical or emotional relationship. She admitted to meeting him once for coffee. Although I believed her, I was really distraught over the whole thing and felt betrayed. She also admitted that she told him our relationship was not good because she needed someone to talk to about our financial problems. The most disturbing thing was that one of his messages contained an old letter he had written about his romance with my wife. It contained details about their relationship, from which I deduced that they had dated while I was away working out in the Alaskan bush for several week rotations. This was summer of '98. We got married in spring '99. We had dated exclusively for at least 4 to 5 years prior, and got engaged in winter of '97, '98. I also figured out that my wife and I were engaged at the time. I was really crushed to find I did not know anything about this and that she had kept this from me. The letter suggested that they had slept together and that she had said she had loved him. So, when I confronted her about the Facebook messages from this guy, I had asked her about the original relationship, and she said it was so long ago she didn't remember much. She said they didn't sleep together, and then when I pushed her on the issue, she said she didn't remember. She also said the relationship was before we were engaged. So, as you can see, she was lying to me about the previous relationship because she did not want to admit some things. This has rocked my trust in her, and it is hard for me to believe her that nothing happened between them recently. Over the last 2 to 3 years since she has been in contact with him on Facebook, texts, phone calls. I am also doubting the basis of our relationship since she was cheating while we were engaged. Her response is that was so far in the past that it doesn't matter now, and she claims to have been completely faithful in our marriage. She just keeps stressing that she had to go through such a difficult time all by herself, when my business was failing and we were having financial issues, and that she stood by me at that time. She expects me to believe, trust in her and do the same. She adamantly does not want to end the marriage and freaked out when I told her I was going to move out. I need some opinions on where to go from here. Thanks for listening. P.S. The guy she was speaking to, let's call him Mike, is divorced. I think she was caught in a lie about not getting physical in the original relationship, which was when we were engaged. So, she went with the so long ago I don't recall. It's made me doubt her on the recent claims, whereas I would have believed her. I also agree she is trying to trigger my guilt, new to forums, so I'm going to Google gaslighting. I was not honest with her about our finances. I wasn't paying bills because business was failing, and I didn't want to admit to her. It was definitely a rough time for both of us. She claims it. The recent contact was neither a pa nor e. I'm having problems believing her because of the previous relationship. I was working like 6-week shifts in remote Alaska 7 times 12-hour shifts. Week. Previous spring, summer same thing, saving up for the engagement ring. I think I really need to figure out if I need to move out, seek counseling or what. We have 2 young boys and they would be devastated if we split. I really like the polygraph idea and think I am going to see how she reacts to that. If she freaks, then I know she has something to hide. Comments. She knows damn good and well if she slept with another man while she was engaged to you. The fact that she can't remember is the same as an admission, only she is basically calling you a dumbass at the same time. How insulting. If she was getting it on with him while engaged and has continued contact behind your back, then you know how capable she is of lying to your face. Do not bluff on the polygraph. Check around for where they are done in your area and what they cost. Do not let her bully you or guilt you. All of your actions came out. Her lies are still hiding below the surface. Do not be surprised if you get a parking lot confession. Would you have married her if you knew she was banging another guy while engaged to you? Maybe, maybe not, but she did steal that choice from you with her lies. This may be old news to her since she has been living with it for all these years, but it is brand new to you and she needs to accept that. If you do need to paternity test the kids, it is cheap, painless, and private. You can do it from your home. Kits are available at Met drugstores, or you can Google paternity eating and have several options. Good luck. Correct me if I'm wrong. While you and your wife were engaged, you were working your back off in Alaska. I guess this was instrumental in building your family. She took some time off your relationship, at that point, to sleep with another guy for some months. Obviously omitting to tell you. Eventually deciding you were a better provider and marrying you in the end. She probably never lost contact with the guy and intensified communications after your business. Money troubles. In other words, when your position as a good provider became doubt and you lied to her about money, don't even think this wasn't physical pre-marriage. I don't remember obviously means I don't want to tell you, which obviously means, well, the obvious. Don't even mention your money lies at this point. It was really bad on your part, of course. But it has nothing to do with this. Her lies about your relationship predate anything wrong you done by several years. She tricked you into marrying her thinking she had been faithful while you were dating exclusively. Don't give her ammo to blame shift. Do you have kids? Is there a reason you want to save this? If there are no kids, I'd run like the wind from a woman who behaves like this. I would run even with kids, actually, in this scenario. But if you want to save this, for reasons I can't understand, you need to gather evidence without asking her. Play dumb and act like you believe her, or go straight to filing for divorce. Even if you want to and see how she reacts, and if she will volunteer information when faced with the end of the marriage. OP responds, I can't reply to all the specifics now, because I'm working. But I did speak to wife again today, and she again kept bringing up my deceit regarding financial matters. She was actually getting angry that I was treating her this way. I actually believe her when she insists there was no physical affair recently. Since marriage. I do think she was keeping things open in case our marriage failed, though. To answer a couple questions. Yes, we have kids, 2 young boys, and I've therefore seen the issues kids from divorced families have. And yes, I am sure the OM has been divorced for several years. He lives in CT, probably an hour or so away from us. I think they had no contact at all from before we were married until about 2 or 3 years ago. When's he got a FB? Oh, and they had only corresponded a handful of times on FB from what I could see, and this was her story as well. Except for the old love letter and a mention or two of her struggles in her marriage, all the other correspondences were very banal in nature. Hi, how you doing, etc. Haven't found anything else, and I don't think I will. As she said earlier today, she will tell me his cell phone number and I can look through all the old cell phone records. I haven't had much of a chance to post, as I is working till midnight, the up kids, to school, and back at work. I can't really post while working, so this will be brief. Had some intense discussions her yesterday and late last night. She showed me his cell number, which I somehow missed when I looked on her phone, and I checked all Verizon records, her calls, texts, everything over the last 2 years or so. As she told me, there was nothing there, other than the one call after he messages her the old letter on FB. I'm starting to feel comfortable that the recent relationship was relatively innocent. At least not serious and not physical. For those asking, if the timing is correct, and we went through this last night, we were absolutely formally engaged. Couldn't have been any more serious type of thing. She claimed she thought it was before but accepted the proof and seemed ashamed, disappointed in herself. Disgusted about her actions. As it is so long ago, we are both slightly foggy on details. I don't know that I was in Alaska at that specific time, May to July. But I, fairly sure as I was doing that work around that time, and there is no possible way she could have been pulled this off without my having at least some inkling. Suspicion if I was home. We were living together at the time. I am still going to get VOR, although I don't think I'll get much anyway. We'll explain why later. I like the polygraph idea still, and will do that if I don't feel I have resolution. Full honesty on everything. She will do it if I ask. Also, I like the idea of FB messaging him as my wife and seeing how he responds. What do folks think of that? She admitted she was wrong with the original affair from the beginning and has definitely been upset about it. What she claimed she wasn't sure of was exactly when it was and if we were engaged. If not, she claimed she thought it was before. I think this is bull crap, and from what I can tell, what she says, he had no idea about me and didn't know she was engaged. Which is ducked up, because what did she do? Take her ring off before she went to class? She was working as an athletic trainer or doing her student teaching at this time, and working on her graduate degree. They met in class, and she and I were living at my dad's house at the time, so she was probably living back at her mom's house or with her sister at the time. So, to put it in perspective, I had been out of grad school and working for about 1 to 2 years at this point, and she was in the last semester of her teaching degree. A few months later we got our first apartment together. Basically, I was away. She had this affair with this prick in her class, and she terminated it when I came home. So, it was maybe 2, 3, 4 months max. Still don't know how I was so blind to her true nature. I have no doubts about the past relationship. She was dating this guy for a few months, and it was definitely a physical and emotional affair. They had physical relations. At this point I need to decide if that infidelity, along with her more recent contact with him, is enough for me to end the relationship. She wants to stay together and will basically do whatever I want at this point as far as full transparency. Short story, I had a bunch of receivables out, wasn't collecting mostly due to my own fault. Got behind with subs, etc. and eventually was not able to pay personal bills as well. Was behind on mortgage payments and racked up pretty large tax debt as well. I didn't tell her about these, basically just told her everything was fine. I would take care of it, etc. IRS doesn't wait too long for their money before crap starts hitting fan. Overall, it wasn't a huge amount to overcome. We had some money set aside as she has a solid job and was putting most of her salary away. Between that and some loans from family we were able to pay things off and are no longer in any sort of debt. It was more the fact that I wasn't forthcoming with her. And she kept getting hit with new information, problems. Definitely a bad time for us, but also not a completely unheard of situation. My gut feeling after going through all the records I can, and speaking with her at length, that the recent contact was not an affair, unless she was super duper cautious, smart about hiding it and had already ended it several months. Or perhaps longer prior. The evidence supports what she has told me, that there were few, sporadic exchanges on FB. For the most part innocuous. Innocent. I don't think it was even enough to consider an emotional affair. With that said, the coffee meeting feels like betrayal to me, and still has me questioning things. Although she did volunteer that info of her own accord, I'm having trouble still with the previous relationship, and don't know if I can reconcile successfully with her due to it. If we didn't have young kids it would probably be easier split. I do still love her, so I may also be allowing that to influence me toward reconciling. I have the OM cell phone and access to my wife's FB as well. I'm thinking I may try to get info from him somehow regarding both issues. I'm still not 100% on the timing of their premarital affair, although either way we were in a fully committed relationship at the time. A year later, just when I was thinking our marriage is starting to heal from all of these issues, when my wife was taking care of the kids, she left her cell phone on the sofa. Out of curiosity, I checked her phone and I started to see a conversation between my wife and that man again. And when the men asked her, "You got some time Thursday night? Maybe we can go grab a drink or something," she said, "Hell yeah." I was devastated by this conversation. It didn't sound real at all. I thought I was just doing everything right into rebuilding our marriage. I even took her out for sushi last night, for crying out loud. I took a screenshot of all their convo and sent it to my phone for divorce evidence. I will speak to lawyer this weekend to get some answers. Thank you everyone for listening to my rant. I just hope the kids will be alright after all of this. Story 2. Here is my current situation in a nutshell. Met husband roughly 10 years ago, dated for 7, married 2 years ago. We've had many ups and downs throughout the entire relationship. We fight and argue a lot. Recently my husband had what was diagnosed as a panic attack and was prescribed anxiety meds. I had been dealing with my own baggage, depression, and just general unhappiness as well. About 2 months ago, my husband Jay mentioned divorce. He was unhappy and uncomfortable around me and was sick of fighting. Intimacy was also a huge issue. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy it. It was that I was uncomfortable with myself. If that makes sense. A few more weeks went by, we went out, talked, but it seemed forced some days, and he seemed happy other days. Mid-August, things went downhill. He was back to seemingly hating me. I had left out home to stay with my mom. We met 2 nights later and he, through his sibling, and yes, you read that correctly, informed me he didn't want to work on things were hopeless to him. In other words, every sentence was prompted by his sibling. Weird, no. It was at this point my entire being was rocked, and finally took a close look at myself, did a lot of soul searching. Which sounds corny. But it's true. I caused a lot of issues in the relationship. I was beyond selfish and controlling, and just really didn't listen. Support my husband. I freaked out over little things, and instead of discussing issues with him I asked everyone else. These are only a few of the issues. Jay and I had met about 2 weeks ago, alone, and we talked some. I asked if we could separate, which I now agreed we needed. Not run to file for divorce, or him sign a year lease at an appointment, but to just take some time to let the dust settle and think about things. We had a long chat, which I mentioned some of the above paragraph to him. He seemed to really be surprised, and taking it all in, and he mentioned also that he also hasn't done things right by me either. He asked how my mom felt about it, and I said that it's no trouble. I've been trying to keep busy. And they have more than enough room. He stated that he really never thought about separation as an option because everyone was telling him the crap or get the duck out, myself included, and I said yes, because emotions were running really high. And that's what happens, but stepping back and thinking about things gives more perspective. He said he'd think about it. We haven't really talked at all except for something initiated by me regarding bills. I felt very hopeful after that chat, and for the few weeks after, he had sent me a warm response to an email and said sounds good, to talking again towards the end of this month to see where things are at. Well, since then I've been feeling less hopeful for us working things out, and I don't know why. I needed to email him regarding financial stuff the other day, and he was back to being very standoffish. To the point he didn't figure out the talking stuff yet. I miss my home and my husband, and being very honest, I truly feel that if he will just give us a chance, we can work things out beautifully. It may sound naive, but I believe it with all my heart. I've come to terms with a lot of things about myself in the last couple months as to the terrible partner I was, both to him and my own friends. So, fellow board members, after all of that, where do I go from here? Mainly, how can I get my foot in the door with him again? Is there a shot? I just cannot give up on 10 years, intertwined families, friends, a home. Side notes, main issues for us were financial based, other than that intimacy. Getting physical for him. Romance for me. Here's the thing, I can't just go back home, can I? I agreed to leave for a while, initially to allow him time to find an appointment. Then after our last face-to-face chat, to allow time for us both to think about things before rash decisions are made. Right now is sort of limbo land, and I was wondering if there is any way to start working on getting him to let me back into his world. He told me that he just feels hopeless about us. Truth be told, I was a rotten person to live with. But I now, through therapy and other support, I've climbed out of depression back to the great person I was. So now do I play the waiting game? Or is there some way to get him to see things can be reconciled? We tried this in the interim few weeks between initial I want a divorce in July and again in mid-August. That was when some days were great, and others he was visibly uncomfortable around me and at home. Now granted, I hadn't realized yet all of the things that I did wrong on my part yet, which I now a light bulb went on and made me go, wow, what a bee I was. Do you think that giving it a few more weeks would be to an advantage, since we initially agreed to do that? Sorry, this is so confusing, but whatever. Points he made are, feels like things won't stay good with me, feels hopeless about our future, and uncomfortable around me. No one can see the future, but man, to me ducking 10 years and a family he adores, mine and mutual friends, seems so drastic. For a couple that although we fought a lot, there was zero abuse of any kind, and no affairs. I don't know at a loss of what's going on with him. A little bit more than a year. My ex-husband and I have been formally divorced since last month. I filed in January. He had been cheating since the spring before he mentioned the initial I think I want a divorce. It was a long process. He, still, believes he had the right to cheat, and that it was my job to keep him happy. Laughable looking back at it really. It was a long journey for me to go through the grieving process, and at the end of it I realized it wasn't me at all. He chose to stop contributing to our marriage, and when he felt neglected, he felt it was okay to cheat, and then shamelessly lie to my face about it. Our marriage was beyond repair. It just took me too long to realize. Wasted my own time really. 10 to 1 it's not you. It's your spouse not owning up to her own shortcomings. Any relationship is a two-way street. One has to give to receive and so on. So forth. What I learned through my experience is that my husband never gave a crap about me, or anyone but himself. I was blind to it for so long and wasted nearly a 1/3 of my life hoping he'd change. Well, he is who he is. And I am thankful I came across those racy detailed emails. Funniest part, the girl is married too, still is to my knowledge. So much for him creating a life with her. Yes, love can test people, but it should never make you feel unwanted or neglected. My comment, do you have a partner that actually cares about you? If so, how you guys spend the weekend? Comment down below and I got more videos coming.